If you ever wondered why the Memphis Grizzlies is not ready to compete for a championship, look no further than this idiot right here.
Hate is a strong emotion, yes, but when it comes to the NBA, fans get obsessed, and they feel like they are a part of every game, and they are feeling everything happening on the court. Therefore, when some players do or say something wrong, fans get upset and start to hate those players. In this video, we will be talking about 15 of the most hated players in NBA history. Watch till the end. Let's begin, shall we? 15. Dillon Brooks. If there is one player who has an opportunity to rise the most on this list, it's Dillon Brooks. He fired up Draymond Green during one season during the playoffs. As Green said on his podcast,
if you ever wondered why the Memphis Grizzlies is not ready to compete for a championship, look no further than this idiot right here.
I'm trying to figure out why they like you in Memphis. I'm not sure your teammates like you. Your understanding of the game of basketball is at a fan's level.
And yet, you running around talking about a dynasty? The dynasty starts after you.
And that's just a fact. I know dynasty-type players, and they aren't clowns. Brooks moved on to the Houston Rockets in the offseason. It seemed like the Grizzlies were sick of his act and wanted a fresh start. As a member of the Rockets, he has already called out LeBron James in the media before their first matchup of the season. If he stays on his current trajectory and maintains a spot in the league long enough, Brooks can easily get into the top 5 of this list. 14. Reggie Miller. The NBA and its entire fan base may not have hated Reggie Miller, but considering how Miller became the villain for one of the biggest markets in the league, he deserves to be on the list. The Indiana Pacers and New York Knicks had their fair share of battles in the late 1990s and early 2000s, and New York's hatred of Miller began in the 1994 Eastern Conference Finals. Miller struggled in Game 5, and Knicks fans were getting on his case, with the most vocal taunts coming from Spike Lee sitting courtside. The hate quickly fueled Miller, and he began hitting shots at an insane clip as he scored 25 points in the fourth quarter of Game 5 and would stare down Lee after every made jumper. His performance led the Pacers to a 93-86 victory, and he walked off the court, making his now famous choke sign at Lee and the rest of the Knicks fans in attendance. 13. Isaiah Thomas. One of the most infamous basketball teams in NBA history is the Bad Boys of Detroit. Fans despised the Pistons because they were rude, arrogant, and entitled. But worst of all, they were excellent basketball players. The ringleader of the Bad Boys, Isaiah Thomas, developed an especially bad reputation. He was a terrific point guard, but his smarminess and extravagant showmanship made him highly dislikable. Thomas was so disliked by Michael Jordan that he was barred from competing with the Dream Team at the 1992 Olympics. 12. LeBron James. Even though LeBron James is excellent practically every time he steps onto the court, most avid NBA fans are probably aware of why so many people dislike him. Even LeBron's fans agree that he has a tendency to speak his mind, for better or worse. While some people blame his on-court actions for their dislike of him, the majority tend to blame his opinionated attitude. Whether others agree with him or not, voicing strong ideas on important matters will inevitably lead to some level of hatred. 11. Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley, a star with the Phoenix Suns, is perhaps one of the greatest players in history that has never received a championship ring. He was not only a talented athlete on the court, but he also had a great sense of humor. Entertaining doesn't necessarily mean likable, though. Barkley frequently got into disputes on and off the court as a result of his bluntness and short temper. Fortunately for him, his openness has allowed him to launch a brand new career in sports talk shows. Even a discussion program with journalist Gayle King will be hosted by him on CNN this fall. 10. Shaquille O'Neal. It should be noted that Shaq is undoubtedly equally loved and hated, but even his fans frequently give the huge man an unpleasant look. Many people have grown tired of him because of his many projects outside the NBA, but the actual problem is often his attitude. A lot of people point out how he treated ex-teammates in public and even in interviews while they were still on the same team. Almost everyone who is a big Kobe Bryant supporter certainly doesn't think too highly of Shaq. 9. Dwight Howard. Although some have criticized Dwight Howard for being prone to injuries, this doesn't seem to be the main source of the star's unpopularity. The actual cause appears to be how challenging it may be at times to deal with Howard when it comes to the coaching staff. Over the years, he has made numerous public comments about the coaching staff, both those he has worked with and those he would love to work with. Even worse, he believed he should get to pick his coaches, which didn't sit well with those who want NBA stars to be humbler. 8. Kevin Durant. Some people believe that the distaste directed at Durant is unwarranted. While some people object to the attitude he can have while playing, a lot of his haters appear to be driven by his 2016 switch to the strong Golden State Warriors. Some people believe that Durant joined the Warriors in order to increase their already incredible strength by winning a championship. Some would say that's not a big reason to dislike someone, but everyone has their own views. 7. James Harden. Most people, even Harden fans, agree that he sometimes can be a major ball hog. The problem has been so serious that Harden has even clashed with teammates, and his actions frequently upset the crowd as well. Even though Harden still plays exceptionally well most of the time, he hasn't consistently outperformed himself when it mattered most. Anyone who has watched a game with a Harden fan has probably gotten used to hearing their friends shout, "Pass!" all the time. 6. Paul Pierce. To be fair, a lot of people liked Paul Pierce's aggressive attitude, but eventually, most people just began to dislike him. He was the type of player who believed, every night, regardless of the result, that he was the best player on the basketball court. Due to that, Pierce frequently disagreed with prominent athletes like Kobe Bryant. Even after his playing days were done, he kept up his trash-talking ways by criticizing contemporary athletes like LeBron James, which gave his critics a whole new generation of followers. 5. Chris Paul. Chris Paul is probably not a bad person. He does, however, have an impulse to upset others. Fans feel annoyed by his continual arguing with officials, especially when it results in Paul getting his way. He also seems to be, for lack of a better term, bossy. And yes, a lot of NBA players are rough on their teammates, Kobe Bryant being a prime example. But such guys typically have championship rings to support their attitude. Chris Paul does not. That's only fair, right? 4. Bruce Bowen. Those that know Bruce Bowen know that he could be one of the roughest players on the court. It's that very thing that drew a lot of ire from the fans of the NBA. Fans like it when their players play hard, but not when they go too far. Some have said that Bowen would often engage in relatively irresponsible and dangerous plays for no real reason. His willingness to risk it all to make a play or stop a team in their tracks is something that had pretty much anyone who wasn't directly a fan of his thinking twice. 3. Vince Carter. Vince Carter seems to be hated more for his playing style than for being a dirty player or being overly outspoken. He was frequently criticized for playing around too much and trying shots he shouldn't have even attempted. Any NBA fan knows that losing possessions will result in frustration. It's likely that your team isn't scoring as many baskets as it could be if your players aren't working efficiently and methodically. Nevertheless, Carter is regarded as a legendary athlete despite all the negativity. 2. Kevin McHale. Few basketball players have actually performed real professional wrestling moves on the court, but during the 1984 NBA Finals, Kevin McHale totally clotheslined a man. On the court, McHale was always a fierce competitor, but it was that one incident that cemented the hatred for him. McHale drew even more criticism, as he was a part of the dominant Boston Celtics of that era. Even if he can be regarded with appreciation, many people still loathe him for what he did on the court. 1. Vernon Maxwell. Vernon Maxwell's name in the list surely doesn't surprise those who are already familiar with him. He was a player who had a bit of a rep throughout his career, but when he hit a fan in the face, it just got worse. It wasn't because a fan bothered him in his free time, but instead, he ran up to the fan in the middle of the game and smacked him. The whole incident was a disaster and exposed the obvious distinction between Maxwell and his teammates, making him a more despised player altogether. This had to be number 1, right? And that's it for this video of the most hated players. Do click the like and subscribe buttons down below if you found this riveting and informative. To make sure you don't miss any uploads, smash the bell icon. Also, share the video and leave all your opinions in the comments section. I'll see you in the next one.